now going to show you how to mix greens. There are lots of different ways of making green. The classic way, of course, is yellow and blue. But which yellow and which blue? And which greens do we need for all the different greens that are out there? And trees have a massive variety of greens. So I'm going to show you just a few, but my main thing would be to say, experiment yourself. Try all the different blues you've got, all the different yellows you've got, and then start adding some reds to get the darker, richer, shadowy colours as well. So I'll just show you what I mean. I'm just going to do a few experiments with you. So one of my favourites is using lemon yellow, which is a very bright, cool yellow, so it's on the side of blue. It's a blue biased yellow, and Prussian blue. So this is Prussian blue. It's a really deep dark blue, so I can get some really dark tones as well as light tones. When I mix these colours together, I'm going to get some more lemon, then I get a really lovely green. The more of the Prussian blue I add to it, the more bluey green I will get, and the more of the lemon I add to it, obviously, the more yellowy green I'm going to get. I can get a very dark blue by adding the colour with hardly any water. That's the classic thing as well about tone. So this is the Prussian blue, almost straight from the tube thickness, a bit more. And a bit more lemon, so really thick, straight from the tube, and that way I can get some really strong colours like that. Again, I can get quite a strong one with the yellow by putting more lemon, nice and strong, like that, and just a touch of the blue, but hardly any water, just a touch of blue like that, or maybe a couple of blocks like that. And mix it together. Ooh, you see that's really quite strong. I wanted it to be more yellow than that, so I'm going to add more yellow again. But this to show you how you can get a stronger tone than that to start with. And then by adding the water, you get a very different colour. So look at the range of colours and tones we've got. This really rich dark green, and then this really lovely lighter green, and going very light by adding the water. So you get very fresh, bright greens by using this combination. But how can we make it darker? Well, by adding red. So if we make up this colour again, I'm going to use some lemon. Clean the brush each time you change the colour in the palette, so you don't mess up the colours in your palette. There's a nice rich green. I'm now going to add a bit of cadmium red. Here's the cadmium red. Add it to this and you will get a really kind of grey green or browny green there, which is perfect for coniferous forests, that sort of, or mossy greens, that sort of thing. So let's look at a different combination. I'm now going to use cerulean blue. Now again, cerulean blue can mix some really beautiful bright greens. So the blue is changing, the yellow is not. I'm using cerulean with lemon. The lemon is the same as that one. So again, lemon is a cool green. It's got a bit of blue in it already, and it will give you some really nice colours in greens. You will not get the strong tones that you get here because Prussian blue is a much darker blue, but you get some really lovely colours. The more yellow you put in, obviously the brighter that green will be, and the more yellow it will be, and the more of the cerulean that you put in, obviously the bluer your green will be. The more blue, the bluer it will be, etc. Add water to make it lighter, more blue to make it bluer, and more yellow to make it yellower. And just see the different range of colours that you can get. You can get a much stronger colour by using less water. So I just do that here. More lemon, more cerulean blue to show you the darker tone green that you can get. But you won't be able to get this really strong colour here. But really lovely bright greens. Now I'm going to change the yellow. So this time I'm going to use cerulean again. And each time you do this, write notes which colours you're using and what you've done with them. And that way is a really good reference in your sketchbook. That is how I teach. I get everybody to write everything in their sketchbook. It's the best reference because you've done it, you know, and it's just, there's nothing better, I think. So here's Q Gold, which is a really rich yellow. Look at that. Add that to your cerulean blue and you will get very different greens to these. These are bright greens. They're very, very bright, you know, spring-like greens. These are more autumnal or, you know, coniferous trees type of greens, but really lovely too. I just added a bit more of that Q Gold to it. Look how rich those greens can be, but it's a bit brown. And why is that? Because the Q Gold is a warm yellow and there's a lot of red in it. So it's going to go very brown because of that. More of the cerulean blue will make it greener. Look at that. Yeah. So it's about getting the mix right. Let's try it with cadmium yellow, which is a warm yellow, but not as warm as Q Gold. It's in between lemon, which is a cool yellow, Q Gold, which is a warm yellow. This is also a warm yellow, but not as warm as this one. It hasn't got as much red in it. So it will produce probably, you know, closer to a green. So here's cerulean blue as well. Clean the brush, add the cadmium yellow, and we get these greens. They're not as bright as these because we've got that element of red in, but a really good natural green for trees. The blue, more blue in it, obviously the bluer it's going to be, like that, and the more yellow it will be. So again, you have quite a nice range of different coloured greens in there. Now let's use Prussian blue with a warm yellow. So this is Prussian blue, the dark blue again. The blue is actually on the yellow side of the colour wheel, so it's a cooler blue. It's not a warm blue. If you use warm blues, you will get muddier colours because there is red in it. So I'm just going to use the Q Gold now with this colour. It's got some red in it, so it's going to be much more, you know, neutral. But it makes some really lovely rich greens here. So there's the Prussian blue. Add the Q Gold. And look at that, some really lovely rich colours. The more of the gold there is, the yellower and browner it's going to be. So some really interesting colours in there again. I'm now going to show you how, if you use a warm colour like cobalt, for instance, here's cobalt, just mixing it up in the palette. Now cobalt is a warm blue, so it's, you know, going towards the purple side because it's mixed with red. If we then use yellow, I'm going to use some cadmium yellow with that now, cadmium yellow, which has also got some red in it. It's going to go more towards neutral colours, more towards the brown, and look, the colour is more dull. So you have to be very careful using these colours together. Sometimes it might be a colour that you need, but just be aware that it's not going to be as bright or as vibrant as some of these, where the colours, you know, work a bit better together. So that's just a little bit of an insight into how to get darker colours by using dark pigments to start with, to use less water, to get brighter colours by using the cooler blues and the cooler yellows, to get richer colours by using the warmer colours, by adding red to get the darker colours, and how to avoid muddy colours just by knowing your colours. And the best thing is to just experiment. Just try all the different blues that you can and all the different greens. And I'm just going to show you one more thing. If you have something like Payne's grey or translucent grey or something like that, and pop that on. This is any grey or black or anything like that. If you then add yellow, so I'm using some lemon in here, you will get some muted greens. It does go green. So it's not just blues that make green. You know, using a black or a grey with some yellow, or even with, you know, different warmer yellow, that will probably go quite brown, yes, because that's got the red in it. So it needs more blue. If that happens, just add some Prussian blue. But that shows you that you can make greens using a neutral colour of grey. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it's been useful. Now I'm just going to talk about ready mixed greens. Mine are all actually tubes from the SAA colours, which are very reasonably priced, and I really like the pigments in them. I think they're really good, especially when you're starting out. Now, sap green here is a classic ready-made green, and a lot of people get that as their first ready-made green. Hooker's green is a much darker green. I'm going to introduce you to all of these colours. We've got Tharlo green here, which is obviously made with the Tharlo blue. Green gold, a really lovely rich colour for the autumn. Viridian, my goodness, a wild colour, not terribly natural, but a really good mixer. Lime green is one of the colours that the SAA brought out recently, a very bright colour, that one. And Potter's green, an interesting one because this one is actually opaque. So I'm going to introduce you to these colours and show you how I wouldn't use them exclusively. So if I was using these ready-made greens, which are really good to use, a lot of people think you shouldn't use them, you should mix greens. Yes, you should learn to mix greens. I think it's important to know how they are made, but there's nothing wrong with ready-made greens. You know, they make your life much more easy when they're already made. But I would still, as I'm going to demonstrate now, I would still add blues and yellows to it. So let me show you what I mean. First of all, I'm going to introduce you to the colours themselves. So this is sap green. Sap green is a really nice lightish green. It's fairly warm and a useful one for trees. Add some water, you get the idea about what it'll look like when it's lighter. Then we've got the Hooker's green. No, we haven't got Viridian. I beg your pardon. So this is Viridian. This is a very, very vibrant, bright green, and not one that you would use on its own for trees unless you were producing an abstract piece of work. However, it's really nice to mix with, which I'll come back to in a bit. This is Hooker's green here. So this is a much more natural green, as you can see. It's darker than the sap green, so you can get darker tones straight away, and it's a really nice natural, you know, going on to the coniferous trees type of greens. Really lovely rich colour. Now I've got green gold here, which is a really lovely bright warm green, great for autumn colours. Add some water and you see how light it goes, almost yellow. Then we've got lime green. This is a very bright green. Again, like Viridian, quite an unnatural green really, although the beech trees at the moment, the leaves are very bright green like this, and especially in the spring. But again, we can tone this down by adding blue to it. The Tharlo blue, green is getting this out here, this one. So again, it's very vibrant colour. Now I'm just going to check that because it looks different to the one I've got here. So I'm just going to get a bit more out of the tube and just try that again. Yeah, it's almost like the Viridian, this phthalo green. I haven't used it much, I have to say, but there we have the phthalo green. So all these ready mixed greens are really interesting. You can see I would label them and put them in your reference book. Yeah, it's a really good reference in your sketchbook. So let's see what we can do by mixing other colours in. Oh, one more. Just got the potter's green here. So this is potter's green. As you can see, it's really quite chalky look to it, which is because it is opaque. So there's a bit of white mixed in there. So it's actually a colour that can go over a darker green, which is rather nice. And I'll show you what we can do with it in a minute. So I'm just going to get the sap green first and show you how we can adapt this. So we've got sap green here. The strongest I can make it is almost straight from the tube thickness, like this on the brush. So that's the darkest tone I can get. Put water on the brush, dry it off a bit on paper towel, add the water, and we get really light tones, so dark to light tone. But we can make it darker by adding a little bit of Prussian blue to it. If I add Prussian blue here to the sap green, I'm going to add a little bit more sap green to it, so you can see. We get really dark green now, and it's more blue. It's got more blue in it. Yeah, so it started as sap green. It's getting towards hooker's green. Can you see the difference? It's quite similar. The sap green here, if I then add lemon to sap green, so I'm going to put some more sap green here and add lemon yellow. There's the lemon yellow on there. I'm going to get a really bright lime green. Not quite like the lime green that's ready-made there. It's kind of in between these two, really. If I was to use a different yellow, excuse me, if I was to use a different yellow with it, so here's sap green again. I'm going to use Q Gold, quinacridone gold, which is a really bright goldy colour. Look at that. If I add that to this green, I get much more of a mossy green, because this has got a little bit of red in it, and so it's going towards a browner green, if you like. Remember when I showed you how to mix neutrals, when I did my Seagulls week, you know, it all starts to make sense, doesn't it? We've got a little bit of red in there and it's getting more to the brown. So lots of things you can do with just that sap green by adding blues and yellows. Which yellow do you use? Which blue do you use? Well, I could go on for a very long time with that and show you all the different ones, but it's far better for you to do that yourself. Try it out yourself, try lots of experiments and write down the colours that you're using, how you've done it, so that you've got a reference for next time. So I'm just going to do another one with hooker's green, which is quite a popular colour as well. This is hooker's green, this one. As I say, you can kind of make it with the sap green, but if I wanted to make this even stronger, I'm going to start with hardly any water to get the strongest tone possible. Look, really rich colour there, and then add the water and you can make it quite light. It is a lovely colour. Now if I add some lemon yellow to that, so here's the lemon yellow, to the hooker's green, then I get a much yellower green. The more lemon I put in, the brighter it's going to be. And again, we've mixed almost that, haven't we? It's exactly the same. And then if I add some Prussian blue to the hooker's green, we will get a really rich, much bluer green. A bit more of the blue, I think. More Prussian blue, and you get a really bluey green there. When you go into coniferous forests and things like that, Jupiter kind of colours, those is kind of bluey green that you get in different forests. Now I'm just going to show you how with the Viridian, which is such a strong colour, you know, we wouldn't want to use this on its own. It's a very vibrant, bright green, and it's not a natural green. However, we can calm it down. So if I use some Q Gold with it, which has got a little bit of red in it, if I mix that into the Viridian, then we get this really beautiful, rich colour. Look at that. We've got sap green. And this is the thing, you know, one colour alone is, you know, got lots of possibilities by adding other colours to it. If I added lemon to this, because it's a cool yellow, it will go very bright, probably like this lime green. So let's just see what we can do with that. Probably not a great one for trees. It's probably a bit too bright, unless you love your bright colours and want to be a bit abstract. But, you know, I love those colours. It's gorgeous, aren't they? You've got that beautiful bright colour going on, and it's almost that lime green. Now, to darken greens, what we say is to add a little bit of red. So I'm just going to show you that as well. So if I get the hooker's green here, and what I'm going to do is add a little bit of cadmium red to it. So here's the cadmium red. If I add cadmium red to my hooker's green, so I'm just putting a bit more green on there, it makes a much darker colour, a kind of browny green, because you're adding the red. Again, look back to the neutral colours that I did on the Seagull Week, and that will help you to understand what's happening there. So that's really great for, you know, coniferous forests and that sort of thing, by adding that red. Another red, not a classic red, but a ready-made brown, like burnt sienna, for instance. It's a bit dirty, that. So burnt sienna here, if I then add that to my hooker's green, I will get some very rich, darker colours. Look at that. Really lovely mossy green colours coming out there. Really interesting. And add some water, you can see all the different colours coming out in there, the lighter colours. So really lovely, rich colours there for your coniferous kind of trees. So that's just a little bit of information about ready-made greens. I hope it's been useful.